On her wedding night, Seris glimpses a locked chamber where 12 portraits stare back, each woman bearing her face, each brutally murdered. When the Alpha King catches her there, his promise chills her blood. She is the 13th, and the only one fated to survive, if she unmasks the truth before the next full moon. But the curse stalking each royal bride is more twisted and more personal than legend whispers. How do you escape a fate written in blood when your only ally may be your greatest enemy? But let me start from the beginning. The iron key was cutting into Seris's palm. Her hand shook so badly, the tiny teeth left a stinging mark she could feel through the silk glove. Why would a bride be sent alone down this stinking corridor? And why did every painted woman, glaring from the candle-lit walls, have her face? She edged farther, numb feet dragging her wedding gown over rough wood. An oily haze of burning lavender pressed in, sickly and sharp. Wolf howls battered stone somewhere above. Too wild, too close. Each one made her shoulders jolt. She reached for a door, locked. She tried another, metal biting as she twisted, but it thudded firm. Her heart thudded against the high collar, each failed attempt tightening panic into her throat. The iron key felt heavier now, as if it wanted to weld itself to her skin. At her back, footsteps slowed, a sound that made her wish for a locked door between them. She wheeled around too fast, nearly stumbling into the wall. Alpha King Eryx blocked the only exit. So broad the flickering candlelight seemed to shrink away from him. His doublet drank in the gold-silver embroidery, catching like wolf's teeth. Not a guard moved behind him. He didn't speak, just jerked his chin. One tiny gesture, and 3 armed men froze mid-step.
On your feet.
A command, not a request. Seris forced her back straight, fighting the quiver in her knees. She could feel the guards watching. If she fell, would they drag her away like the others? He stepped forward, his presence pressing in. Old leather, wolf fur, cold air off the mountains. She looked up and saw those eyes, blue as river ice, rimmed with sleepless black.
Why am I here? Is this a test?
He said nothing. Instead, he raised a hand, pointing past her to the portraits hung in a row. 12 women, each painted in stiff white silk, blue velvet at their waists. Each face was her own, down to the stubborn chin, the frightened violet eyes.
The kingdom's curse is not a tale. 12 wives. 12 funerals.
A guard tossed her blue velvet sash onto the floor at her feet, as if discarding soiled laundry. The humiliation burned, her own sash, thrown like she was an afterthought.
They all look like me. Did you hunt for a perfect match, or do you kill every woman who wears your crown?
He flinched, a shadow of something behind the mask, then stepped closer. His voice dropped so low she almost didn't hear.
You're the 13th. If you wish to live, you'll break what killed them. Or you'll die for nothing too.
The injustice stung sharper than the key. 12 women, erased. No reason given, just a threat. Even her name would be painted over. She balled her fist around the iron, feeling its cold imprint. Her voice cracked, but she forced herself to speak.
I'm not a sacrifice. Give me a real chance, or kill me now.
Silence spooled out. Eryx's jaw tightened. Then he flicked his hand, and the guards turned away. He tossed the iron key. She caught it by instinct, the shock of metal anchoring her to the moment.
That key opens every door. The answers are here if you search. Survive until the next full moon, and you live. Fail, and you'll take your place beside them.
His boots echoed as he walked away, leaving Seris caged with a dozen painted ghosts and the stink of fear. The bolt ground shut. For a long moment, she just pressed the key to her chest, breathing in iron and panic. She knelt to retrieve her sash, hands shaking so hard the velvet slipped through her fingers twice. Only then did she notice, beside the nearest portrait, a tiny door with a lock slicked from use. Seris drew a breath, squared her shoulders, and forced the key into the lock. The turning mechanism scraped like bone on stone. The door swung open, a niche barely big enough for her to squeeze through. Inside, A single sheet of parchment waited atop a pedestal, her name written sharp and black across the page. Not a reflection, not an echo. A message meant only for her. Seris braced herself against the prick of cold iron as the king's grip crushed her arm. He dragged her down the corridor, boots striking louder than the guards trailing after. The stench of burning lavender clung to her silk sleeve. Each step away from those uncanny portraits stabbed a fresh question behind her eyes. Why lock the wives' faces away? Why threaten her life for looking? Filtered moonlight bled through a stained glass wolf, painting blue and crimson on the stone. A wolfhound's fur brushed her ankles, thick, musky. The beast's eyes tracked her. Was she being guarded or hunted? King Eryx stopped. His shoulders blocked the light, a wall of midnight velvet and fury. He snapped, and the two nearest guards fell silent. Even the air seemed to shrink.
You will forget what you saw.
He forced open a heavy door and shoved her through. The metal scraped her spine.
You said 12 wives. Where are they?
He slammed the door, trapping her between velvet and damp stone.
You asked too much.
Her voice cut sharper, refusing to tremble. Stay close. This is where it gets dangerous. Subscribe, and let's keep going.
If I'm next, I have a right.
In a flash, his hand seized her chin. His palm was hot, but she saw it. A thin, pale scar crossing his wrist, half hidden by embroidery. Old, not an accident. He snatched his hand away, jaw tightening.
Every question you ask steals from your own life. Consider that before you speak again.
A beat. His fingers hovered at the lock, knuckles paling. For a heartbeat, his hand shook. He pressed the iron key so hard it bit his skin.
Is it fear that keeps you silent, or guilt?
He stiffened, mask returning as quickly as it had cracked.
My duty is to keep you breathing, not to keep you happy.
The door shuddered shut, the bolt harsh as a threat. The guard's eyes flickered, but no one met hers. Not a single bow or word. Just the press of obedience to cruelty. And Seris, hem trailing, was left behind. The wolfhound padded closer, thick fur scraping her ankle again. One of the guards tried hurrying it aside, but the beast planted itself square in his path. The guard fumbled, tripped, and muttered a curse as he nearly toppled over the animal's massive back. Seris almost smirked. Even in this prison, someone, or something, refused orders. A draft snaked through her new chambers, swirling with the smell of old leather and wolf. Moonlight flickered through blue glass, throwing patterns like claws across the velvet-draped bed. Lavish, yet cold. The voices outside were hushed, never quite leaving her alone. Seris let her fingers linger in the wolfhound's fur, grounding herself in the rough warmth. Her mind darted back to that scar, so quietly carved, so quickly hidden. Why would a king wound himself? A whisper of movement at the door, then nothing. The guards still lingered, shadows behind stained glass, watching, waiting for her to break the rules. She would not yet. Seris pressed her back to the door, gaze fixed on the crack beneath it. 12 wives, 12 secrets locked away, and the king's hand had trembled. When dawn came, she would find out what he was so afraid of. Filtered moonlight cut through the frost-laced window, striping Seris's bedchamber in brittle silver. Each step across the stone stabbed her feet with cold, the kind that refused to fade no matter how tightly she tucked her toes under her skirt. The air reeked of burned lavender and old leather, thickening the quiet with threat. She crouched near the bed, tugging her thin shift higher to brace against the freeze. Her hand brushed the floor. There, the outline of a wolf's paw, scorched into the stone. 4 toes. The last, twisted, not there yesterday. Or perhaps she'd simply been too busy surviving to notice. A hinge groaned. Marta crept in, eyes wide, fists wringing a bundle of linen.
My lady, I'm so sorry. The king ordered a search.
Seris straightened. Her feet burned as she pressed them hard to the floor, refusing to flinch.
He lost interest in privacy, did he? Send him a drawing next time. It'll save you the trouble.
Marta blinked fast, throat working.
Lady Nera must confirm No hidden marks. I have to strip the dress.
She didn't look at Seris, only at her own trembling hands. A shadow filled the hall. Lady Nera, green silk glinting, lips pinched in satisfaction.
Quickly, Marta. The king detests waiting.
The chill of the stone floor had nothing on the heat rising in Seris's face. She drew herself tall, then unfastened her sash with slow, deliberate fingers. Let them watch. Marta's hands hovered at Seris's shoulders, fumbling the gown down her arms, searching sleeves and seams. The linen shift was peeled away next, exposing pale skin to the cold, and Seris forced herself not to flinch as fingers pressed at her collarbone, tracing her old scar. She kept her eyes locked on the frosted glass, refusing to give Nera the satisfaction of shame.
Check her hair. Curses hide where pride grows.
Marta's touch shook as she sifted through Seris's pale hair. The search was rougher now. Seris bit her tongue. Blood filled her mouth, sharp and coppery.
No marks, milady. Only old wounds.
Then she's not special. Dress her.
Seris snatched her shift from Marta, yanked it over her head herself. Her teeth clicked together as she stared down Lady Nera.
Maybe next time you'll bare your own throat for him.
Nera's eyes narrowed. Marta's breath hitched in panic. But Seris didn't look away. When they strode out, Seris forced herself to listen for their footsteps, counting each one as proof she was, however briefly, alone again. She crouched by the bed, rubbing her feet against the stone to stir feeling back into them. The cold wouldn't leave. She pressed her hand flat to the floor, following the edge of the scorched paw print, searching for loose mortar. Her nails caught on a crumb of stone. She pried at it, ignoring the sting. The stone gave way. Inside, a scrap of midnight blue velvet, torn, its hem stitched with silver thread, smelling faintly of wolf fur and lavender. The king's doublet. Proof he'd been here, or that something of him lingered. Seris lifted the velvet to her nose, heartbeat rough. Her mind leapt to every bride who'd vanished, every secret kept behind locked doors. She tucked the scrap into her sleeve, resolve hardening. Across the window's frost, streaks of light burned, shooting stars, bright against black. For a heartbeat, awe made her throat ache. But she didn't waste a wish. She glanced at the paw print, then the velvet, then her own hands, red from cold but unshaking. Tonight, she would not just endure. She would map every mark, every secret, until the king himself ran out of places to hide. Down in the corridor, a door slammed, and in her hand, the velvet scrap felt heavier. Filtered moonlight crept between the library's stained glass, tinting dust motes blue and gold. The scent of old leather and parchment tangled in Seris's nose as she crept between shelves, her steps muffled on threadbare rugs. No guards, not tonight. Only the sound of her own pulse, stubborn and regular, and the distant echo of howling beyond the castle walls. A single candle guttered on the long table, its light shimmered across a scatter of battered volumes. Seris scanned the titles with a practiced eye, histories, bestiaries, tax records, then paused at the bottom of a haphazard pile. There, half hidden, was a ledger, its cracked leather spine dry under her fingers, flaking onto her palm as she lifted it. It wasn't catalogued, and someone had tried to smear soot across the cover. A spike of satisfaction. She'd found something worth hiding. Opening to the first page, Seris frowned at the careful, angular hand. Each entry was a code, just initials, numbers, single words. Midsummer. E.L. vanished. A date marked every line. Some pages were stained, others torn. The candle's heat softened the spine. A small curl of leather stuck to Seris's thumb as she flipped onward. Halfway through, she stilled. An illustration, ink faded, but unmistakable. A young woman in a high-collared gown, a wolf's paw print burned across her chest. The name beneath was blotted out. She pressed her thumb to the cracked leather, steadying herself, pulse ticking in her throat. A footstep. Not outside, behind the stacks. Seris snapped the ledger closed, shoving it beneath her cloak. The heat of the candle seemed to shrink from her as she turned. King Eryx stood at the edge of the table, arms folded, blue eyes colder than the filtered dawn glow. He said nothing at first. The silence felt like a test.
You're thorough. Most stop at the portraits.
His voice was soft, but she caught the steel beneath it. She straightened, refusing to flinch.
Is that why they all disappeared? A bad habit of asking questions?
His jaw flexed, then stilled. Something flickered across his face. Not anger, not quite. His eyes dropped to the ledger clutched in her hand.
You think me a murderer?
Should I think otherwise?
A long silence. The scent of scorched paper lingered near the candle. He looked as if he might say something. Lips parted, voice gone rough. But then his expression closed again.
If you want the truth, ask. I'm not as cruel as the stories make me.
He left the sentence unfinished, leaving the offer hanging between them, taut as a thread. Seris's grip tightened on the ledger. She let him see it.
And if I do ask?
He stepped back, features unreadable. The moment stretched, a challenge unspoken. As she moved to slip past, her cloak brushed the ledger's final page, blank, untouched, waiting. She nearly missed it. Then his words, quiet and strange.
I swore I would end it with you.
He was gone before Seris could demand what he meant. All that remained was the weight of the ledger in her hands, and the echo of a vow she wasn't sure was a promise or a threat. A raw strip of dawn glowed through the warped stable window, colouring frost and dust with a tired gold. Horses stamped in their stalls, warm breath puffing into the chill, the scent of hay sharp beneath the lingering wrong sweetness of burning lavender. Seris pressed her fingers into the rough mane of a chestnut stallion, palm tingling where old scars met living heat. She cleared her throat. The stablemaster, Rellan, ignored her, busy scraping muck from a cracked leather bridle. The man's shoulders hunched, the candle at his elbow guttered. No one else moved in the maze of rough-hewn beams.
I need a word.
He grunted, pretending not to hear.
You were seen with the last bride, before she changed.
His knuckles whitened on the bridle. The chestnut stallion nuzzled Seris's wrist, insistent as hunger. She dug a coin from her cloak, flashed it where Rellan couldn't miss. His eyes flicked to her, then to the horse.
Coin's less use to me than quiet. Folk talk when coin changes hands before sunrise.
She tilted her head, voice low, quick.
They'll talk either way. What's her rage to you?
Rellan hesitated, then snatched the coin. He kept his voice flat.
Bride started biting the hand that fed her, snarling, snapping at folk she claimed to love. Eyes glazed, hands clawing, like she wasn't herself, like the wolf had chewed through her skin.
The chestnut stallion butted Seris's hip, nosing her pocket. Its mane tangled around her fingers, coarse and alive. She fumbled for the apple she'd stolen from the kitchens. The stallion snorted, blocking her path. Only after she offered it up did the horse step aside, chewing with noisy satisfaction. Rellan's mouth twitched, a brief, unwilling smile.
That beast's got more sense than most lords. Won't let a stranger through for less than tribute.
Seris almost laughed, then remembered her purpose.
What happened after?
He wiped his hands on his sleeve, voice dropping.
Every bride, same thing. Rage came first, then death. Always just before dawn, and always that smell, like lavender, but wrong. Too sharp, like something burning, that should be sweet.
The horse's nostrils flared, uneasy.
Did anyone see what caused it, or who was with them?
Rellan shook his head.
No one near. King locked himself away, came out after it was done looking half hollow. But you hear things in these stalls. Hooves panicking, a woman's sob, then a howl, never quite like a wolf. Worse.
She traced the stallion's mane, rough, stubborn, real, and forced herself to speak evenly.
If you were me, would you run?
He met her eyes, haunted.
If I were you, I'd find out what sets it off, or who. Folk talk about curses, but it felt like a test. like the rage wanted to be let loose.
A distant howl cut the dawn, echoed by a desperate hammering from the castle's upper hall. Seris's grip tightened on the stallion's bristling mane. In the sudden hush, a faint trace of burned lavender drifted beneath the hay. She looked back at Relin.
When it happens, do the horses panic first?
He hesitated, then nodded.
Always, like they already know what's coming.
Seris stepped into the aisle, mane rough against her palm, heart racing. The questions pressed closer. Was it rage, or something driving it? And what was it about burning lavender that smelled so much like a warning? Above, another howl. Not quite beast, not quite human. A veil of steam fogged the bathing chamber's mirror, blurring the high-arched ceiling and silver sconces, until the world shrunk to candlelight and heat. Seris wiped her palm across the glass, smearing away the condensation. The polished surface revealed her face, wide violet eyes, platinum hair clinging to damp cheeks, and teeth bared, lips curled, not in her own expression but as snarl, animal and alien. Her grip tightened on the edge of the marble basin. The reflection remained unchanged. It watched her, breathless, mouth twisting further, wolfish and wild. The sound of distant howling slipped through the stone walls, too faint for certainty. She pressed her tongue to her teeth. They felt human. But in the mirror, the canines looked too long, a predator's smile. Yesterday, the face in the glass had blinked with her. Today, its eyelids didn't move when she did. Her pulse thudded fast and thick as the pounding rain she'd grown up under, but colder. She raised a hand. The reflection's fingers clawed at the glass instead. Her knuckles stayed white and still. A flash of green silk behind her, Lady Neira's voice, smooth as hot candle wax.
Is there a problem, Seris? You seem agitated.
Seris didn't turn.
You could say the mirror's disagreeing with me today.
Lady Neira's eyes narrowed. She drifted closer, her perfume all burning lavender and ambition.
Strange. All I see is a pale girl wasting good water.
Neira's gaze lingered at Seris's side, searching for a tell. But only Seris could see the beast's glare in the glass, her own face grown sharp and menacing, teeth scraping the world behind a barrier of silvered glass.
Maybe you're not looking closely enough.
A soft scuff outside the door broke the tension. Marta, the maid, entered, eyes darting between the women, hands full of towels. The room smelled of damp stone and wolf fur, the wolfish stench impossibly close. Marta's attention flickered to the mirror, then away, as if unwilling to see anything unusual.
Your bath is ready, my lady. Shall I?
Leave it. I'll manage.
Marta hesitated, glancing at Lady Neira, then shuffled out, the echoes of her footsteps fading into the corridor. Lady Neira's thin lips twitched. Not quite a smile.
You always did prefer solitude. Remember, mirrors in this castle are unreliable things.
She left as silently as she had come. The door closed with a click that sounded like a lock turning. Seris let out a tense breath. Her reflection, no longer watched, began to move. It paced, shoulders hunched, eyes flashing with animal hunger. The glass rattled softly. She pressed her palm to the mirror's surface. Cold bit her skin. The reflection pressed back, mouth open in a soundless snarl. A small warmth brushed her ankle, the castle's youngest wolf pup, eyes wide as coins, fur smelling of milk and moss. It curled against her foot, trembling, but didn't flee. She knelt, fingers threading through its fur. The mirror beast paused, watching her with something close to envy. She closed her eyes, letting the rough velvet of the pup's coat ground her. Heart racing, wonder flickered. Did the curse bleed into fur and flesh, or was this only her? She opened her eyes. The reflection now pressed its face to the glass, lips mouthing silent threats. 3 days, maybe less, before it broke free entirely. She gripped the pup tighter, mind racing. Breaking the curse would mean shattering the mirror, losing every memory of herself. A cost almost as terrifying as the beast in the glass. A sudden crack ran up the mirror's edge. Spiderweb fine, circling the reflection's wolfish eyes. The glass trembled beneath her hand. The wolf pup whined. Seris stared, pulse roaring in her temples, as her reflection's lips shaped a word she could not hear, but understood. Tomorrow. Filtered moonlight pooled beneath the chandeliers, fighting with the flicker of 100 candles. The ballroom reeked of burning lavender, perfume, and a thready undertone of wolf fur. Every noble wore a mask, peacock feathers, hammered gold, velvet trimmed with jewels. The soft brush of gold-threaded mask edges scratched at Seris's cheek, reminding her with every movement, nothing here was as it seemed. She drifted among them, her smile practiced, voice kept low, laughter ricocheted off marble floors, but under it all, whispers, nerves, secrets. Lady Nera, green eyes sharp beneath a gilded mask, blocked Seris's path near the wine table.
You wear the king's colors well. I wonder, do you enjoy being an ornament? Or is it just good strategy?
Seris let her fingers play along the stem of her goblet, the cool glass grounding her.
At least I'm a useful one. Some here only serve as cautionary tales.
A few masked nobles snickered. Nera's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed velvet smooth.
Do be careful with your little games. The last bride who played too boldly ended up very still indeed.
Seris tilted her head, letting the gold thread scratch a little line along her cheekbone.
Strange. I heard it was after an argument with the king, not a game, that she was found.
Nera's silence spoke volumes. A nobleman nearby, mask painted with curling silver wolves, leaned closer.
It's always the same, isn't it? She argues with His Majesty, then gone by morning. I suppose it's tradition.
Seris forced a laugh, the sound raw. Her pulse quickened, not from fear, from the sense that she was finally scratching at the curse's true edges. A servant brushed past, candle wax dripping onto soft velvet sleeves. Marta, plain wool blending in, darted her a worried glance. Was it pity or suspicion? Music shifted. The sharp, formal notes of a courtly dance. Murmurs rippled, expectation or threat. Seris turned, wine clinging to her tongue, and found Eryx at her side. Midnight blue velvet, mask edged in silver, and the rigid set of a man at war with himself. He offered his arm, too formal, too stiff, duty, not desire.
If you refuse, they'll talk. If you accept, they'll talk more.
Seris took his arm, fingers brushing the embroidery. She felt the tension under his skin.
Let's give them something to talk about.
He led her into the dance, stiff at first, footwork precise. The gold thread of her mask scratched each time she turned her face toward his. The court watched, hushed, every step a negotiation.
Try not to grimace. They'll think you're in agony.
Eryx's mask slipped, not enough to reveal his face, but just enough for her to see the ghost of a smile. He caught himself, jaw snapping shut, and the smile vanished. Their hands met, functional, necessary for the dance. But he didn't let go as quickly as he should have. The music spun them closer to the nobles. A flushed noblewoman, mask askew, whispered just loud enough for Seris to hear.
They say each bride received a secret promise from the king. None ever spoke of it, not before they died.
Seris stumbled, the gold thread scraping a thin welt on her cheek. Eryx steadied her, grip firm. For a blink, his thumb pressed against her pulse, an unintentional comfort, gone a second later.
And what was that promise?
A dangerous silence gathered between them, broken only by the echo of footsteps on marble and the low growl from somewhere near the doors. Seris met Eryx's eyes through the mask, questions burning. Did he ever love any of them? What did he promise? The dance ended, but the answers hovered, just out of reach. A goblet shattered behind them. Seris flinched, and saw, reflected in the polished stone, the red slash of her own blood, where the mask had bitten deep. And across the floor, Lady Nera was watching, smiling, like she knew exactly what Seris had learned, and what she still had to lose. A branch whipped across Seris's cheek as she ducked, golden leaves tumbling past her boots. The forest's air stung with cold, and the scent of crushed autumn. Half earth, half burning lavender. Behind her, armoured boots smashed through undergrowth. Voices, sharp and breathless. She darted behind a mossy boulder, heart jabbing at her ribs. The guards were closer now. She could hear the clink of cracked leather and the gruff bark of orders. She yanked a strip from her cloak and hooked it on a bramble, then snapped a twig beneath her heel, the noise echoing toward a deer path to her left.
Go on. Chase ghosts.
The guards thundered after the bait, their shouts fading beneath the wind's rush through mountain pines. For a heartbeat, Seris sagged against the stone, fingers pressed to her lips to stifle a laugh, half wild relief, half nerves gone electric. Her tongue was sandpaper. She crept toward the sound of sunlight on moving water. The stream cut a ribbon through the trees, stones cold and slick beneath her knees. She plunged her hands in. The shock of spring water burned her skin, then her mouth, as she drank, sharp, metallic, like biting into new snow. Her breath steamed in the frigid air. Autumn leaves drifted by, stirring up damp smells. Earth, rain, the faint iron tang of old blood. She caught sight of animal tracks at the mud's edge. A wolf, heavy and large. 4 toes. The 5th, ragged, missing, left a crescent divot in the mud. The hairs on her neck prickled. She pressed her sore fingers to her own palm. Scar for scar. Not coincidence. Not this deep in the king's woods. A crow croaked overhead. She startled, splashing water on her cloak. Stillness pressed close, broken only by the faint, sour scent of wolf fur carried on the breeze. Somewhere between the pines, a silver flash, gone before she could focus. Was it Eryx, or some other remnant of the curse? She sniffed the air, burning lavender, colder now, tinged with the rot of old leaves. The guards were double backing, no time. She forced herself up, knees wet and aching. The world sharpened as she scanned the shadows, looking for a sign. Anything. There, a woven charm, half buried under a cluster of mushrooms, marked with wax and a twist of blue thread. The scent of wolf fur and burnt herbs clung to it, oddly comforting and bitter at once. Her breath caught on a laugh, the witch's sign. A path, not visible to the king's men, wove away from the stream, deeper into dark trees. She tucked the charm into her sleeve, the chill of the water lingering on her tongue as she crossed the stream toward the unknown. A howl echoed, impossibly close. Not a threat, a summons. She hesitated, palm pressed to the paw print, her skin tingling as if the mark itself called her forward. She stepped off the main trail, alone now except for the scent of lavender and old magic, following the witch's hidden path, leaving the king's hunters chasing shadows behind her. Herbal smoke curled through the mossy air, sharp and bitter, stinging Seris's nose as she stepped inside the hut. Herbs hung like shriveled bats from the low beams, shadows twisting in flickering candlelight. Seris tightened her jaw. Every instinct screamed to turn and run, but she stepped forward, boots sinking into the soft moss that blanketed the cracked floorboards. Morwenna waited by a squat cauldron, green eyes glinting through the haze. The witch's voice was the scrape of a whetstone, slow, deliberate, bone dry.
You come stinking of wolf. That's new.
Seris met her gaze. One of Morwenna's pet crows cocked its head from the rafters, black bead eyes fixed on Seris's hair.
No time for games. I need a potion to stop the curse.
Morwenna stirred the cauldron, the herbal smoke burning Seris's nose again. Her skin prickled. She was certain her claws would show if she let her guard drop. The scent of damp earth and dried herbs filled the air, making her stomach churn.
Stop it? No. Delay, perhaps. The curse was never meant to be simple, nor painless.
But what did she really want? Seris didn't know. The question hung in the smoky air.
You made it for pain then, or profit?
Morwenna's laugh was like gravel tumbling in a dry stream.
Not me. The curse punishes betrayal. His and the bride's. Yours, most of all, if you keep asking questions with teeth.
Seris's throat burned from the smoke, but she refused to cough. She pressed forward, voice steady.
How long will the potion buy me? And what's your price?
Morwenna lifted a vial from the cauldron's rim. The liquid glowed faint blue, pulsing with each flicker of candlelight. The crow shifted, feathers rustling.
For what you ask, time and a chance at keeping the reflection at bay, you must give me a memory, something precious, a piece you won't easily part with.
Seris's hands curled at her sides. A memory in exchange for staving off the beast inside her. She tried to recall moments she could lose, but every thread felt tied to who she was.
What happens to it?
You forget. I remember. The rest is never simple.
A crow dropped from the rafters and landed on Seris's shoulder, cold claws digging through her cloak. It plucked her hair ribbon and flew up, trailing silk like a banner. Seris almost laughed. In the gloom, even a witch's crow had sticky claws.
If I give you a memory, you'll give me the potion?
If you dare, but once given, gone. Even if you beg.
Ceres hesitated. Her mother's lullabies, the way sunlight once dappled through the rose garden. Her father's hands, rough and careful, teaching her how to knot a row of stitches. Should she sacrifice one, lose an anchor to herself, just to delay the inevitable? The bitter smoke clawed at her eyes, forcing them to water. She forced herself not to look away from Morwenna.
Take it. Just do it before I change my mind.
Morwenna's touch was icy against Ceris's temple. The world wavered. The taste of rosemary, wild honey, and something sharp twisted through her thoughts. A memory slipped free. Ceres gasped, but she couldn't remember what she'd lost. A name, a face, the warmth of a hand. Morwenna pressed the vial into her palm, her own fingers lingering just a moment too long. The blue potion pulsed in Ceris's grip, cold and alive.
You've bought yourself a few sunrises. Use them well. And watch the mirror, girl. It's always hungry.
The crow cawed overhead, Ceris's ribbon dangling like a prize. She blinked, with one memory missing, and a potion whose price might be far higher than promised. She stepped into the mossy night, uncertain who she was leaving behind. Smoke curled through broken timbers, sharp with burning lavender and old parchment. The firelight pressed against Ceris's skin, the heat so near she could feel her hair singe at the ends. She stumbled into the clearing, breath ragged, arms loaded with the last salvage from her cottage. A battered ledger, the velvet sash. Her pulse was a drum in her ears. The forest beyond watched in silence. A pane of glass at her feet caught the firelight. She saw her reflection in it, white skin, dark smudges beneath her wide eyes, jaw clenched. Then the reflection blinked, not in sync, its lips pulled back, showing wolfish teeth. Ceres froze. The glass convulsed. A ripple, then the mirrored version of herself thrashed against the surface, claws erupting where her fingers should be. The lantern in her other hand shattered, oil spilling over the ground. Fire hissed along the grass. The smell of burning lavender grew thick, almost sweet. She staggered back, dropping the ledger. The reflection didn't let go. It pressed its palm to the glass, and white-hot pain laced across Ceris's arm. Bloody claw marks erupted through her linen sleeve, mirroring those in the portraits in the castle hall. She gasped, voice scraping her throat.
No, I won't let you.
The reflection grinned, her own face distorted, eyes wild. The flames leaped higher, the heat grew unbearable. She tried to stamp the grass, but the fire only spread, licking at her hem. A low snarl echoed from the mouth of the forest. Not beast, not quite man. Then boots thudded through the crackling brush. Eryx, broad-shouldered, eyes narrowed to icy chips. He didn't hesitate. He darted through the fire, grabbing Ceres by her wounded arm. His grip was rough, but his body blocked the flames, velvet doublets smouldering at the edges. For a moment, Ceres was pressed against his chest, the heat from the blaze nearly as fierce as the heat radiating from his skin. Her hair crisped under the singed air.
Are you hurt?
The words came out clipped. His gaze dropped to her arm, jaw tightening as he saw the marks.
It's not yours to fix.
She jerked her arm free, but her knees buckled. Eryx caught her, holding her steady. The velvet on his coat scratched against her palm.
Stand still. The fire.
Let me go. I told you.
He didn't. The air hissed with burning oil. For the first time, his mask cracked. His face was stark with fear. Not for himself, for her. He looked at the claw marks as if terrified of what they might mean.
What did you see?
You think I don't know? My own reflection tried to gut me. Is that part of your precious curse?
A log splintered nearby, sending sparks across his shoulder. He twisted, shielding her body with his. The smell of wolf fur and burnt velvet sharpened in the air.
This shouldn't be possible. It's never. Not like this.
His fingers lingered on her wrist. The touch lasted a heartbeat too long. Neither pulled away. Her eyes darted to the blood on her sleeve, matching wounds she'd seen in 12 painted faces. A gust of wind scattered ashes through his hair. The relief of being shielded warred with humiliation.
So your ghosts are getting bolder. Maybe they want more than a body count.
He swallowed, throat, working. For once, the king didn't have an answer, not even a lie. Behind them, flames chewed through the last of the cottage roof. The heat prickled along Seris's scalp, burning away the memory of safety. She shivered, not from cold, but from the hunger in her own reflection, the echo of wolfish violence lurking just beneath her skin.
You need to tell me what you gave up in the woods.
His voice was almost gentle, but the command remained. Seris met his gaze, defiance sparking. She knew then the curse was changing its rules, and she was running out of choices. The fire roared, claw marks stung her flesh. In the burning glow, she saw her reflection flicker again. Stronger, waiting. What would it take to become the monster the curse demanded? The answer was closer than she dared admit. The storm forced Seris and Eryx into the cave before she realized she'd made a choice. Wind howled through the narrow entrance, carrying the wet scent of pine and damp stone. Inside, the fire Eryx coaxed from flint cast a ragged amber light across his face. Shadows crawled over the rough walls, broken by the restless flicker of flame. Seris ignored the ache in her palms, fingers still stained from clutching the damp earth outside. She wrapped her cloak tighter, nose twitching, old ash burning velvet. The faint musk of wolf fur mingled with stone, but she didn't know why she felt so exposed. What secret hid behind his guarded gaze? They hadn't spoken since the mountain path. Eryx's gaze stayed locked on the flames. She studied his profile, jaw rigid, blue eyes hollowed by secrets. The silence stretched, gnawing. She broke it first.
I suppose you're expecting gratitude for the shelter? Or do you just trap all your brides in caves before winter?
He dragged a stick through the embers, not looking at her.
If I wanted you trapped, you'd never see daylight again.
The words stung more than they should. The wind rattled the cave mouth, flaring the firelight over his cheekbones. For a heartbeat, he looked exhausted, ancient, human. She forced herself to laugh, sharp, brittle.
Charming? Do you rehearse that tone? Or does it come naturally with the crown?
He finally turned, mouth twisting.
Better to frighten than to lie. You know what's coming, Seris. The storm outside is nothing compared to...
She cut him off.
Compared to the curse. Yes, you've made that clear. 12 wives, 12 deaths. And now you're waiting for 13?
His jaw flexed. For a moment, she thought he'd snarl. Instead, he stared at the stone floor. The silence between them thickened, weighted by smoke and confession. Then, a long pause. The tension in the air grew heavy. She felt it in her chest, tight and unyielding. The longing hit then, unexpected and raw. Not for him, but for the girl she'd been before the castle, before the wolf beneath her skin.
I'm scared I'll forget myself. Not just my name, who I was, what I wanted. That I'll wake up and all that's left is beast.
Her voice faltered on the last word. Eryx closed his fist around the stick, The firelight skipped across his knuckles, catching the scar on his hand. One she hadn't noticed before.
Every bride has thought she could outwit it. Some did, for a while. It took 'em, all the same.
He exhaled, long and slow, like it hurt to let the air go.
I remember every face, every scream. I remember what it's like to hope, and to lose hope.
She wanted to hate him for that, wanted to laugh in his face, but the fire threw warmth onto her skin, and for the first time she saw how tired he was. Not just weary, haunted.
Did you ever love any of them? Or was it always duty?
He pressed his tongue against his teeth, considering.
Once. I was young enough to think love was enough to break a curse.
The words drifted between them, brittle as frost. She couldn't help it. A grin crept onto her lips, crooked, defiant.
Let me guess, she sang like an angel too?
He actually smirked, just barely, the edge of his mouth quirking, almost surprised at itself.
No, she sang like a crow with a broken wing, as do you, I suspect.
She snorted, the sound echoing off wet stone. The fire's warmth filled the cave, for a moment softer than any velvet.
If you think I'll comfort you with a song, you're madder than I thought.
He shook his head. The smirk faded, replaced by something unfinished.
I made a vow, after her. No more hope, no more lies.
She studied him in the shifting firelight, his scars, the fear he would not name, the longing, twisted, fierce and impossible. Outside, thunder clawed at the rocks. Inside, the cave was warmth and confession, and questions that burned hotter than flame.
Who cursed you, Eryx? Was it really your enemies, or was it someone closer?
His eyes flicked up, blue and cold as river ice.
Ask me that again when the storm breaks, if you still want the truth.
The fire spat a spark, the heat touched her face. She wondered what he'd sworn, and whether it was meant to save her, or destroy them both. Filtered moonlight turned the council hall's banners to shrouds. The cold iron shackles bit into Seris's wrists, their chill seeping bone deep. She kept her chin high as whispers fanned around her like smoke. Old leather, burning lavender, the stink of fear. Lady Nera glided to the dais, her green gown glinting in the candlelight. Voice, a blade wrapped in silk.
My lord councillors, the evidence cannot be ignored. Strange marks on the bride's skin, odd behavior, witnessed by your own servants. Magic or madness, either one threatens us.
The word witch hissed through the chamber. Seris noted how Nera's gaze lingered on the shackles, the satisfaction in her smirk. Eryx stood behind the council's table, hands rigid at his sides, even his knuckles blanched white in the filtered moonlight.
If ambition were a crime, Lady Nera, you'd have hanged yourself already.
Her voice didn't tremble. The shackles pressed icy rings into her skin. She refused to flinch. A nobleman leaned forward, parchment crinkling in his fist.
We've lost 12 wives to this curse. Now the 13th walks at night, muttering to beasts. My own hounds howled at her passing.
Eryx's gaze flicked to Seris. For a heartbeat, he looked as if he might break the iron himself. But the council's eyes pinned him.
The law is clear. Accusation demands proof.
Nera's smile twisted.
Proof, your majesty. Ask your own maid. Ask Marta what she saw.
Marta stepped forward, wringing her hands. Her voice barely rose above the echoes of footsteps on stone.
Mistress? She spoke to her own reflection, argued with it. Her eyes, I saw them change. Just for a moment. I'm sorry
The council pounced.
Brand her. Let the mark show her nature. It's mercy compared to the pyre.
Seris's heart thrummed. Not fear, but outrage. She yanked at the chains, the cold iron biting deeper. The hall reeked of damp stone and old power. She fixed her gaze on Eryx. His jaw worked, words unsaid.
Will you let them do this?
He said nothing. Only the line of his shoulders cracked, ever so slightly. A wolfhound in the corner, shaggy, enormous, chose that moment to nose beneath a noble's chair. With a spectacular crash, scrolls and inkpots tumbled everywhere. The hound, unfazed, took a seat atop the scattered parchments. Nobles leapt up, cursing, one tripping flat on his rear. Somewhere in the commotion, Seris almost wanted to laugh. Almost. The humour evaporated as iron tongues glowed orange in the fire. The council's voice rose, a pack howling for blood.
You could stop this, Seris. Confess. It would be kinder for everyone.
If I told the truth, you'd burn with me.
Eryx reached her at last. His hands hovered over the shackles, trembling.
Please, don't resist. They're watching.
Their faces were close, breath mingling. Too close, too far. Then the bailiff slammed the tongs to the table, molten metal hissing. The court went silent. The next decision would change everything. The iron pressed toward her skin. She dared not close her eyes. Water dripped from the ceiling in rhythm, echoing off the stone. The lavender-scented torch above Seris sputtered, smoke curling over her head. She pressed her palm against the cell door. A splinter clawed at her skin. She kept her hand there. The pain kept her awake. Every council accusation replayed itself in her head. Deceiver, cursed, monster. Each word stuck like grit beneath her fingernails. She stared at the ledger's coded lines, smuggled beneath her skirt when the guards weren't watching. The pattern in the numbers nagged at her, but she couldn't pin it down. Her reflection's snarl lingered behind her eyes, wolfish, hungry, nothing like the girl she remembered. If she looked in the torch's brass base, her face warped. Strange, how the lavender smoke here matched the scent she'd caught in the stables that morning. A key grated in the lock. Heavy footsteps. She gripped the rough, splintered door edge so tight, a fresh bead of blood welled on her palm. She didn't pull back. Eryx stepped into the light, cloak damp, eyes hard. He didn't speak at first. He watched her hand, the way it didn't flinch from pain.
You could scream. Summon the guards. Why don't you?
Why bother? They'd rather see me hang.
He weighed that. In his silence, the lavender smoke burned sharper.
You always manage to find things you shouldn't, even here.
She shrugged, voice flat.
It's not difficult. Only takes watching what others ignore.
He glanced at the ledger, then back to her bleeding hand. Unspoken questions crowding his jaw. The torch flickered. In that wavering light, Seris saw exhaustion etched in the angles of his face.
What have you found?
The curse is a pattern. The entries, names, dates, deaths, all line up with the council's trials. Each bride failed a test. Each one was accused. But the ledger, it's coded. There's a word hidden in the dates. The old script for forgive.
He stiffened. His next words left a gap she couldn't decipher.
Forgiveness? That's not how curses work.
She pulled the skirt closer around her knees, hiding the shiver that ran through her. Not fear, something rougher. Her palm throbbed. She pressed it harder to the door.
Maybe it's not for you. Maybe it's for me. Or...
She cut herself off. The puzzle's edges shifted. If the curse needed forgiveness, who was supposed to grant it? The one who wronged her most. But who? Eryx? Herself? He leaned closer, voice low enough that only the stone would hear.
If it's me, you have every right not to. If it's you...
He reached through the bars, his hand closing over hers. Rough wood biting at their pressed palms, her blood smearing his thumb. Warmth spilled from that touch, unexpected and steadying. He didn't let go. The lavender smoke curled between them. For a moment, the cell door wasn't there.
Why do you risk this? The council could gut you for less.
Let them try. I made my choice the night you walked into the fire.
Her anger softened, a crack in her armor. She let her head rest against the door, the splinter digging deeper, anchoring her. A tremor of humor surprised her.
If I forgive you, do I have to forgive myself too? I'm not sure which is harder.
His mouth twitched, almost a smile. A new question burned beneath her skin. The lavender, the same as in the stables, as in the corridor outside the portrait hall. Why did it follow her everywhere? She closed her eyes, memorizing the shape of his hand, the warmth, the ache of the splinter. The answer hovered, close, unfinished. A wolf howled somewhere beyond the castle walls. The ledger slipped from her lap, landing open at a page she'd never seen. At the top, a symbol burned into the parchment, a single twisted paw print ringed in violet wax. The ancient wolf hall blazed with flickering candlelight. Burned lavender fought with the stink of damp stone and wolf fur. Beneath the banners, nobles pressed shoulder to shoulder, whispering over the echo of footsteps and the shatter of glass that still hung in the air. Seris's wrists ached under cold iron shackles. Blood from a split knuckle dripped onto the flagstones, mingling with a scatter of mirror shards. Tiny knives glinting silver in the torchlight, dusted with something that could have been magic or old despair. Lady Nera's mouth curled as Seris stumbled past. Every noble eye raked her raw.
Enjoy your audience, Seris. The mirror's never kind to traitors.
The council's laughter cracked against the walls, as sharp as shattered glass. Seris kept her eyes forward, refusing to meet Eryx's gaze where he stood at the dais, in ceremonial blue. She could taste old leather and blood at the back of her throat. The councillor closest to her raised his voice.
We are gathered for judgment. The 13th bride failed, as all before her.
The wolf banners above seemed to shiver. Another drop of blood fell, vanishing into the silver dust. Seris noted the patterns, memorizing every shard beneath her feet, a map of ruin. She saw her own reflection, warped in the largest fragment. Pale, wild-eyed, hair-entangled ropes. Then the reflection blinked. Too slow. Her pulse kicked. Not possible. A cold gust swept through the hall. The candles guttered. Glass dust whirled across the stones, stinging her shins. Each noble shrank back. The reflection in the shard moved, lips peeling back in a wolfish snarl, eyes black with hunger. It crawled from the mirror, impossibly real. Bloodless feet, stepping onto the stone. The sound of shattering glass echoed, too loud inside her head. The hall reeled. Nobles froze. Lady Nera's hand shot to her mouth, eyes wide. The mirror Seris lunged, claws out, teeth bared. Seris twisted aside. Iron chains scraped her wrists bloody. The creature was faster. It raked her shoulder. Pain, bright and hot, tearing fabric. Silver, dust, and blood smeared her collarbone.
Stop her! Kill the cursed whelp!
No one moved. The nobles clung to the walls, hungry for spectacle, not justice. Seris grabbed a fistful of rough-hewn wood from the splintered platform. She drove it between herself and her twisted double. It was like fighting smoke and steel. The reflection's fingers closed over her wrist, cold and strong. The pain was blinding. She gritted her teeth.
You want me? Then take it. Take it all.
Her other self shrieked, a sound not meant for human throats. It echoed with the howls outside, and every candle flickered. Eryx moved, wolf-quick, vaulting down the steps. Blue velvet ripped as claws burst from his hands, his jaw sharpening, half shifting without mercy. He hurled himself between Seris and her demon mirror, bearing the bruise of the curse in every line of his face. The reflection snarled, lashing at Eryx. He met it head-on. Fangs bared, he took the blow meant for Seris. Claws raked his left arm, blood spilling hot onto the shattered glass. His eyes, ice, but burning, never left hers.
Run. Don't look back.
She didn't move. The injustice stung deeper than any wound. The council, cheering her death, delighting in her pain, only he stood with her. The reflection snatched for her throat. Seris kicked at a shard with her heel. It embedded in the creature's foot. It howled, flinching. Eryx, bleeding and half-changed, caught Seris by the waist, pulling her behind him. His grip, rough, desperate, too tight.
You're not her. You're not a monster.
She wanted to laugh, or scream, or say something sharp and fearless. None of those would come. The mirror Seris raised a hand glinting with blood and silver. But from the dais, the great wolfhound, the youngest, smallest pup, unnoticed until now, lunged straight at the reflection's heart. The beast collided with glass and flesh. For a breath, the hall was filled with flying shards, silver dust, and a sound like stone breaking. Seris's knees gave way. Shards cut her palms as she caught herself. Blood and silver mingled. It looked like moonlight pooling in her hands. For the first time, the hall was silent, except for distant wolf howls and the crackle of candles dying. The reflection staggered, pieces missing, face warped, but it was still standing. Seris looked at Eryx, at the wolfhound trembling between them, and at the blade of glass still clutched in her fist. Would she have to kill a part of herself to live? Was escaping this trial even possible? The reflection smiled. A line of blood trickled from its mouth. The candles went out. Smoke curled along the broken flagstones, laced with the sharp bite of old leather and wolf fur. The dawn glow bled through the high stained glass, painting fractured rainbows across the shattered mirrors and the blood winding between them. Seris's hand trembled as she pressed her palm to the last unbroken shard. Glass bit into her skin, sharp as a wolf's teeth. She didn't flinch. She wanted the pain. It was proof she had not vanished with the others. Her reflection stared back, a monster with her mother's eyes and a memory she could almost touch. A summer field, laughter, Eryx's hand in hers, warmth flooding her chest. But why was she here? Why was this happening now? She didn't know.
You're bleeding, princess. Again.
Nera's voice slid through the smoke, smooth as velvet. The nobles watched with hungry eyes, their whispers scraping like claws against stone. Somewhere, Marta's soft gasp clipped the air, but Seris didn't look away from her own twin, her shadow self, sneering from the glass.
You want to survive, then do it. Take it all.
The reflection grinned, blood on its teeth. It spoke with her voice.
You lived. They didn't. Isn't that why you can't sleep?
A surge rose in her, rage, shame, raw longing. She pressed harder. Blood smeared the surface. Another shard bit her finger. The sting drew her back to the body she was desperate not to lose. Eryx's wolf form hovered at the edge, silver fur matted with sweat and streaked crimson. His blue eyes, no, not cold this time, flickered with a plea he would never speak. He stepped forward, staggered, but the chain at his throat snapped taut.
Don't.
His voice was a growl, cracking in the middle. She ignored him. A dozen banners overhead shivered, as if in warning. The beast inside her snarled, but another voice, her own, rose with it. All this time, she tried to kill the monster, but she was the monster. She was the survivor, the last choice, the 13th.
What will you give to end it, Seris?
Nera's lips quirked. She already knew the price. Seris's hands trembled. She remembered her mother's voice. Forgive the part of you that wanted to live. A memory flared, bright and unbearable. The field, the laughter, the taste of sunlight on her tongue. Eryx's lips, her happiest memory, the only thing untouched by blood. Her voice broke. The hall.
If the price is the only joy I ever knew, then take it. But I am not ashamed to have survived.
She let the memory rise, let herself feel the golden warmth, the weight of Eryx's hand, and then, with a snarl, she smashed her bleeding fist through the glass. Pain shot up her arm. The mirror exploded, shards spinning across the marble. Blood splattered the banners overhead. The spell broke with a sound like 1,000 windows cracking. The smoke unraveled. The whispers died. Seris staggered, light-headed, staring at her ruined hand. She could not remember the field. She could not remember what laughter sounded like in sunlight. Grief, a vast cold ache, settled in its place. The nobles shrank back. Lady Nera watched, green eyes narrowed, but said nothing. Eryx crumpled. His wolf form twisted, bones cracking, fur receding, until he lay sprawled on the marble, human again, but broken, gasping. His left hand curled toward her, streaked with his own blood. Seris dropped to her knees beside him. Her fingers left red smears on his cheek. He tried to speak, failed. She saw the fracture in his facade, real, agonizing fear.
You're alive. Why?
He looked at her, desperation raw.
Because you were always the answer.
Those words splintered something in her, sharp as the glass. For one stunned moment, nothing else mattered. A hot tear tracked through the grime on her face. The scent of wolf fur sharpened. Dawn poured through the ruined hall, gilding the wreckage in gold. Behind her, Marta edged forward, hands twisting in her apron, mute, uncertain. Nera turned away, hiding her expression in the fluttering green silk. Seris squeezed Eryx's hand. Blood dripped between their fingers. There were questions left. The curse's origin. The secret Eryx still hid behind those eyes. But the price was paid. The hall was silent, until, somewhere far below, a door slammed, and the first howl of the morning answered. The dawn glow sliced through the broken stained glass, painting shards of colour on the ruined flagstones. Old leather and parchment tainted the air, undercut by wolf fur and the metallic tang of fresh blood. The blood that still streaked Seris's palm, raw from where she'd shattered her reflection. Every echo of footsteps whispered accusation. Every council whisper was a threat. But what did they hide? She didn't know. Seris stood at the centre of the wolf hall, banners twisting above, the iron key hot and weighty in her hand, the same place she'd first been paraded, a prisoner, a bride, nothing more than prey. Now every eye watched her for weakness or defiance. She met each stare with her own. Eryx limped through the scattered glass coat, torn, jaw set. His left hand shook, just as it had when she first saw him. Only now everyone could see the tremor. Sunlight hit what remained of his wolf form, silver-grey fur, the left forepaw scarred and missing a toe. The detail cut through Seris's racing thoughts, a puzzle piece she tried to ignore. Lady Nera's eyes danced, cold and green, as if she already knew every secret and delighted in Seris's pain. Marta hovered behind a half-toppled pillar, her blue apron streaked, mouth set in a silent plea. Smoke curled along the stones, tasting of old curses. Seris gripped the iron key tighter. It no longer felt like a shackle. It felt like a lever.
No more games. The truth, all of it.
Her voice cut through the chamber like cracked leather. Eryx's jaw clenched. The council shifted, robes and armour scraping rough wood. Seris took in their faces, the ones who'd watched 12 women vanish, and said nothing.
Bold words, for someone still bleeding.
Seris caught her own reflection in a broken mirror. Fractured, too many eyes, too many wounds. She stepped forward, letting the light find her scars.
You want blood, Nera? Here it is. All this...
She gestured at glass, at banners, and the silent wolf howls beyond the castle walls.
Isn't about the king's wrath. It's guilt. His curse is the wound he couldn't close.
Eryx flinched. His hand trembled so hard it looked broken. The council's mutters sharpened.
Enough.
His voice was flint, but softer at the edges.
This is not your story to tell.
No.
She turned on him, iron key held out.
It was never yours alone, was it? The first bride, the missing paw print, the ledger with her name burned away. It was you who failed her, not the curse who demanded blood.
The scar on his wolf paw, the missing toe, flashed onto the dawn's fractured light. A memory crashed through Seris, the way Eryx's hand had trembled when she touched the scarred ledger in the library, the way he'd looked at her as if seeing a ghost. She connected the marks, the ledger, herself. The curse wasn't rage, it was memory, looping and devouring.
I swore I would end it with you.
The hall stilled. For a heartbeat, Seris thought he meant her death.
You swore to protect me, not kill me.
Eryx looked away, fingers curled like claws. For the first time, he looked smaller than his curse. His voice broke on the next words.
I couldn't save her. I tried.
He pressed his injured hand to his chest, as if to cage old pain.
Every bride after was a penance, not punishment. I couldn't bear the memory, so I let the curse bear it for me.
A cough broke the spell. Morwenna leaned on her staff, eyes hollow.
Curses don't bind flesh. Only guilt does.
Her words fell like dust. The council's bravado faltered. Lady Neira's lips curled, but she said nothing. Seris felt the iron key sweat in her palm, as if it remembered every lock she'd faced. She could hand it over. She could walk away. But something made her hold it higher.
So it ends with a choice. Mine.
A tremor of relief, physical not named, loosened her shoulders. She watched the council, the king, the broken hall. She was no longer prey, not just a reflection, or a bride. The banners twisted in the dawn. Somewhere outside, a wolf howled once, then fell silent. Seris turned the iron key in her hand, feeling its heat. What would she unlock? Her freedom, or another fate? Sunlight on marble. That's the first sensation. The fractured dawn, catching on the broken mirrors and painting the wolf hall in ragged prisms. The banners above twist softly in the new light. The air tastes of old leather and parchment, with a ghost of burning lavender. Seris stands at the center. Same hall, same council, but everything has changed. Her scarred palm is closed around a different weight now. Not the iron key, but the crown. There's a hush, that familiar, suffocating hush that once threatened to swallow her whole. But today, it's waiting. Watching. At the council table, grim faces avert their eyes. Lord Auden's robes are singed at the hem. Lady Neira's gaze is all venom and calculation, but her smile falters as Seris's shadow falls across the blood-stained marble. Marta lingers at the edge, hands twisted in her apron, eyes darting between Seris and the broken sunlight. The council's verdict is delivered by silence. It rings through the hall, echoing the moment Seris first entered, accused and powerless. But now, she stands unshackled. Eryx is beside her, human once more, though the strain lingers in the tightness of his jaw and the tremor in his hand as he kneels. His ceremonial coat is flecked with dust and mirror glass, and there's a raw, uneasy hope in his eyes. In his hands, he offers the crown, velvet and iron, cold but impossibly heavy.
Rule beside me, of your own will, or walk away, free.
His words settle on her skin. The weight of the crown in her palm is almost unbearable. It bites at her self-inflicted scars. The memory of chains, of threats and lies flickers at the edge of her vision. Seris glances at the council, at their downcast faces, at Lady Neira's sardonic tilt of the head.
If I say no?
Eryx doesn't flinch. He looks up, voice quieter.
Then, I'll order the gates opened. You can be gone before the banners settle.
A brief, sharp laugh escapes her. Not joy, more disbelief. She rolls the crown in her hand, feeling its cold iron teeth press into the bloodied groove of her palm. The hall waits. She could leave. She could vanish into the forest, let the council bicker themselves into ruin, let the curse rot them from within. The choice is hers. For the first time, the power is real. Her grip tightens around the crown. She kneels, not in surrender, but to drag Eryx up by his ruined coat. Their hands meet, stained and calloused, and for a moment, the hot iron of the crown rests between their palms, heavy as a secret.
If you want a queen, you'll take all of me, even the parts you tried to break.
For the first time, Eryx's composure cracks, his voice rough.
I never wanted to break you.
A flicker of wonder. The sunlight finds her face through the fractured glass, and in the twisted reflection, she's no longer alone. The blood on her palm is hers. The crown is hers, if she wants it. At the council table, Lady Neira's polished nails drum a lazy rhythm. Marta lets out a sigh, half fear, half relief. But Seris's eyes are fixed on the crown, on Eryx's trembling hands. The hush lingers, heavier now. The hall holds its breath, as if the wrong word could shatter the new dawn. Seris's voice is low, certain.
I choose for myself. Remember that.
The weight of the crown, warm with her blood, answers. But from the shadowed archway, the witch's eyes gleam, and in that silent threat, the promise of peace is anything but certain. Dust swirls. The council stirs. And, at Seris's feet, The first crack in the marble begins to spread. The tang of scorched lavender lingered in the corridor, weaving through the shafts of sunlight that spilled across the cool marble floor. Seris pressed her bandaged palm against the gilded frame, pulse steady beneath torn silk. Morning air carried a hint of damp stone and something raw, as if the castle itself was breathing out the night's curse. But what was she missing? Why did she feel like something unseen lurked just beyond her sight? 12 portraits lined the wall. Each woman wore a crown and Seris's face, but none of them looked back. She cradled the 13th in her arms, oil paint still soft beneath her thumb. Marta had finished it just before dawn. Her hands had trembled so much she'd smudged the blue in Ceres's eyes. Eryx hovered behind her, boots silent on marble. His hair was still wet from washing away blood, his coat thrown carelessly over his shoulder. The key at his belt caught the sunlight, golden, battered, familiar. It winked beside the white scar across his wrist, a quiet echo of everything they'd survived. He said nothing at first, only the distant howl of wolves and the faint creak of old wood filled the hall. Seris hefted the portrait. The weight surprised her, heavier than any crown. Sunlight warmed her cheek as she lifted it, catching her own gaze in the painted glass. For a moment, memory pulled her back. The first night, chained and frightened, watching Eryx from across this same marble. Now, she stood by choice. She hung the portrait. The click of wood against stone sounded final. Old dust drifted from the frame, replaced by the crisp bite of morning. Eryx stepped up, just close enough that she could feel his breath at her temple.
You're really doing this?
Ceres arched an eyebrow, lips twitching. The gesture felt unfamiliar, almost light.
You thought I'd run again?
He shook his head, mouth twisting wryly.
I wouldn't blame you. You've earned that much.
Their eyes met in the glass. His hand hovered at her shoulder, not touching. She noticed the tremor in his fingers, the sharp breath he drew, as if bracing for a blow.
I stayed because I wanted to. Not out of fear, not for your counsel, your crown, not even for you.
A beat passed, the kind that once would have snapped with anger or sarcasm. Now it simply hung there, open.
But love is a good reason to stay, isn't it? Even if it costs.
He dropped his hand, letting it curl into a fist at his side. The scar on his wrist flashed again. The key beside it, the same one she'd nearly stolen, the same one that might have freed her or condemned her, glinted in the pale light. But then, Eryx's expression shifted, a flicker of something unspoken. He hesitated, as if weighing whether to say more. The silence stretched, thick with unasked questions.
You're not like them. You never were. That's why the curse broke.
Marta's shadow flickered at the corridor's end, her apron stained with paint and ash. For once, she smiled, small and uncertain, but real. Ceres set the crown upon her own head, cool metal, pressed against her still tender temple, anchoring her in this new truth. She looked to the portrait, her scarred hand resting lightly on the frame, her reflection alive and unbowed. She smiled at herself, sunlight gilding the curve of her cheek, tracing the bruises that would one day fade. A sudden gust of wind stirred through the open window, carrying the faint scent of old leather and parchment. The castle seemed to settle, as if wary of the change. Eryx reached for her hand, his touch hesitant. She let him take it, their fingers tangling awkwardly at first, then settling, her palm rough with old wounds, his thumb brushing the jagged edge of her scar. He squeezed.
Let the 13th be the first to live.
All around them, the portraits watched. For the first time in memory, the corridor felt less like a tomb and more like the beginning of something neither curse nor crown could name. Some choices leave scars, but some, like Ceres's today, shine brighter for it. If her moment of defiance or hope made you question what you'd risk for freedom or love, share your thoughts below. Would you have chosen to stay, or opened the door to whatever waited beyond? If Ceres's journey stayed with you, I hope you'll join us for more stories of wild hearts and breaking curses. Until next time, stay brave and let the dawn find you unafraid.